People, even in the church, think that something is just going to happen because they are destined for it. And then if you're outside of the church world, you might use the word manifestation.
Learn to take care of yourself before you get married because it is not your wife's responsibility to be your mother.
I personally think I did pretty good in terms of how I handled finances prior to getting married. I could have done better.
The way they are parents to their children, you're just like, I want to be just like them.
Conflict is anytime you think, feel, need, or want something different than another human. That's a lot of the time. Do not look to people whose life you do not want to emulate. You can love Jesus and go to therapy, just in case you're wondering.
Jesus in therapy is a real thing, people.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Troy.
And welcome to our channel.
You are my sunlight. You are my sunshine.
So we make content all about faith and marriage and our lives here in Orange County, California. Today, we're gonna make a video all about our top 7 investments before getting married. Why 7? That might sound like a very random number, but we are currently in month 7 of being married. We're baby newlyweds.
It's flown by. 7 months. Can't believe it.
It feels like 3 months ago we got married. We thought, what a good way to celebrate by making this video of our top 7 investments before getting married. So we're gonna get started with investment number 1. Troy and I are Christians. We are followers of Jesus. And so because of that, we read the Bible. We believe that that has been for sure our top number 1 investment.
Definitely number 1.
The Bible provides a way of life. It gives you true wisdom, not worldly wisdom, direction. If you are not sure of who you are, what your purpose is, what you're doing in this life, it gives you that as well. So I'm going to show you the Bible that I read.
I'm going to get it for her. This thing's thick.
So for years, I was reading an NIV Bible. Right after getting married, I actually purchased this one. It's huge, it's very thick, and it's NKJV, New King James Version. So it took a little bit to get used to it because it's a different version, but I really like it. It gives really good commentary. If I'm not sure of the definition of something, or I'm not sure what something meant in the Bible, I can read the commentary, and it kind of helps bring a little bit more understanding. Before each book, it gives some information about the author, it gives the purpose of the book, some like common themes or patterns throughout the book, and then it also gives you Christ in the scriptures, and so where this particular book pointed to Jesus.
I read the NLT, the New Living Translation, and it's actually specifically for men. It's called the Every Man's Bible. So I've absolutely loved it. I've been reading this Bible now, I think for 4 years. I remember when I was living in San Francisco, I actually lost my original one that had all my highlights, and I was so sad. I picked this one up. I think I bought it last year, like right before we got engaged. And so, yeah, just reading the Bible is super important for both of us. We both start off every single morning reading the Bible. I wake up at 4. Alice wakes up at 4:45. We just have to get in the Word every single day. We have to get fed from God, and we have to be able to spend that time with Him. I know when I don't read the Word first thing in the morning, usually it's not going to be a good day. I didn't go to God right away, and I didn't give Him my first fruits. And so get in the Bible every single day, people.
Okay, so investment number 2 is therapy. Therapy. You can love Jesus and go to therapy, just in case you're wondering.
Jesus in therapy is a real thing, people.
We go to a Christian therapist. She loves Jesus, and I would recommend that if you're a Christian, that you go to a Christian therapist. They are just way better at what they do, and they have a biblical worldview. So I started to go to therapy in the beginning of 2020. The reason why I believe this is a great investment is because I am Alex. He is Troy.
I'm Troy.
Yeah, and I have my own life experiences, backgrounds, traumas, opinions, worldviews, hurts, pain, everything than Troy. So Troy is a separate human who has all of that same
All the same issues that she has.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, and so I needed to figure out why I do the things that I do, why I believe the things I believe, why something might trigger me, why something might be sensitive to me, why conflict is so scary to me. Where they'll probably begin in therapy is your family of origin. So give me your backstory, give me your story. It was very important to me that we dove into our family of origin, and that before I got married, I was able to see how did my parents' parents, the generations before me, my family, what I've seen growing up affect the way of who I am, whether that's for the good or for the negative, and actually be able to learn what is true, what is holy, what is right, what is pleasing to God, and what is not. And so hopefully that made sense. And then be able to see, okay, in marriage, how do I actually want to be a wife and raise kids and have our future generations
Love me better.
yeah, love Troy better. I began therapy many years before marriage, and I've definitely found that to be helpful. As we were about to get married, I asked my therapist, hey, can my fiance join our therapy sessions? And she said yes. It might not be every therapist that says yes to that, but mine did. And so we've been actually seeing her now as well every single month, maybe starting a few months before marriage and then up until currently, and we don't plan on stopping.
No, we do not.
I just spilled my coffee on me.
Alex just spilled her coffee
Dang.
all over herself.
That's so sad. Can you take this to the kitchen? Thank you. I'm gonna go change now. We'll be back. I can't remember what I said last, but essentially my point was top investment number 2 was therapy. So there you go, therapy. Troy, what is investment number 3?
Investment number 3 is mentorship. I've had the same mentor since 2018. Shout out Stephen Gartrell. So Stephen and I met through a mutual friend. I was going to Hillsong Church back in 2018. Met through a mutual friend. This guy played college baseball as well and said, hey, I have this guy. You absolutely have to meet him. I ended up meeting Stephen, and Stephen and I just connected right away. The thing that we connected over, Stephen was a professional baseball player and I played college baseball. So we already had that mutual connection, and that's where our relationship honestly just took off from there. And I started finding out, all right, like Stephen, like what do you do now, like since you're retired from baseball? And he started his own mentorship program called Ripple Effect 22. And mentorships was something and is still something that is so important to me. And so I started pretty much, I was like Stephen's like shadow, you could almost say. So I would follow him wherever he went to go volunteer, specifically at like the Boys and Girls Club, or if it was at a school, just to see what Ripple Effect 22 was all about. And so that's how our mentorship actually started. It was just me spending time with him. It was never me saying, hey Stephen, like will you be my mentor? Like when I lived in San Francisco, I didn't have a car. Like a lot of people don't have cars in San Francisco. But Stephen would drive me home after, like we would be at like the restaurant called Old School Cafe, where we would do some volunteer work, or the Boys and Girls Club. And we would just start talking about life. We'd start talking about relationships. We'd start talking about what are my dreams, like what are my passions, and all the things I wanted to do. And he just took me under his wing. I've described him to people as he's a mentor, a big brother, almost a father figure as well. And specifically, like when it came to marriage, I was already looking at Stephen and Siobhan as somebody that I wanted to embody my marriage after. First and foremost, they are a godly Christian couple. Did I say Siobhan?
I don't know.
But Stephen's married to Siobhan. And so they embodied Christ so well in everything that they did. They would always have people over there, very hospitable. They just loved on people. They continued to serve. They both worked at their church. The way they are parents to their children, you're just like, I want to be just like them. Prior to Alex and I getting married, we would meet with Stephen and Siobhan probably about like one time a month, and they would just ask us questions of, all right, how are you guys doing in this process leading up to the wedding? Is there anything that you guys need? Like these are questions you guys should be asking one another. We definitely suggest if you can get a mentor in your life or a couple that you can look up to, definitely find those people.
One thing that I've heard when it comes to mentorship is do not look to people whose life you do not want to emulate. So I think that's what the point of what Troy was saying was, okay, he looked to Stephen, he looked to Siobhan because their lives were a life that he wanted to emulate, whether it had to do with the way that they had their marriage, the way that they raised their children, and what they were doing with their hands, with their gifts, with their talents, with their life. So mentorship was investment number 3. So investment number 4 is going to sound a little bit weird, but trust me. So it is to practice conflict resolution. I hated conflict resolution. I still don't love it.
I hate it as well.
Conflict is anytime you think, feel, need, or want something different than another human. And so if you really think about it, that's a lot of the time. That's every single day you have some sort of conflict. It could be something very minor. It could be something big. So for example, a minor conflict could be, I really want apples. and Troy really wants to pick up bananas.
You know me so well. I was about to say bananas.
That's a conflict. That's dumb. It's very minor, but it's a conflict, with the definition. And so the reason why conflict resolution or practicing conflict resolution is so important is because you are now uniting your life to another person. And like I mentioned earlier, Troy and I are two different humans. We have two different brains, two different backgrounds, two different sets of opinions, two different personalities. We're gifted in different ways. We think differently. And so obviously there's a reason why we got married, right? And so we do have a lot of commonalities. We have a similar vision, but at the end of the day, we are two separate humans. And so because of that, there is bound to be conflict, and probably for the rest of our lives. And so it is very important to practice conflict resolution so that the first few months of marriage or years or however long isn't shocking to your system, right? And if you keep sweeping things under the rug, whether they're really, really minor or really, really big things, eventually you are going to explode. Eventually it's not going to go well for you. Eventually you're going to hold on resentment and just blow up in an argument that could have been resolved a long time ago. And so that is investment number 4, practice conflict resolution. So the next investment is atomic habits and discipline. What types of atomic habits and discipline? That depends on you and where you want to go in terms of your life. And the reason why I say that is because whether you like it or not, your habits and the disciplines that you have in everyday life will make up who you are as a person and where you go. It can be scary to think about if you have literally never thought about a habit before or have zero discipline. That's scary, right? Because where is your life headed? If you believe in God, if you know you have a purpose, if you know that God is calling you unto something, then you will actually be intentional with how you live your everyday life. And so for us, we definitely had certain habits and disciplines put in place prior to marriage. Another thing about this is that a lot of people, even in the church, think that something is just going to happen because they are destined for it. And then if you're outside of the church world, you might use the word manifestation, or I'm just going to manifest this if I think about this long enough. I don't even know how it works, supposedly. We don't believe in that, right? You have to be intentional with the ways that you live your life. So for example, some habits and disciplines that Troy and I have, we exercise every single day. That's a non-negotiable. We get up and we read our Bible for about 30 minutes to an hour every single morning. That's also a non-negotiable. We eat healthy. I meal prep.
We go to church mostly every Sunday unless I'm coaching in a baseball tournament.
But yeah, and then another thing is just what God is calling us to. And so there's specific things that we know that God is calling us to, whether it's in this season or the next, but a lot of times that includes actually doing something. A lot of times it includes preparation as well for the next thing. And so that's something that we have to be very intentional about. Practically, if, I'm hoping to, for example, launch a business in a couple months, well, I actually have to take certain steps to get there. I can't just be like, oh, if God wants me to have this business, it's just going to happen. If it's God's will, no, I hate that because so many people use it as an excuse. And that's why so many people of the world are doing so many cool things and running education, politics, business, finances, all the things. But no, how do we actually take hold of who God called us, of how He created us, and of what He's calling us into? And so anyways, a lot of that takes habits and discipline. And so if you know how to have and hold habits and discipline prior to marriage, then when you get married, it'll be way more easy for you to not waste your life, waste your marriage, have a purposeless marriage, but be like, okay, who are we and what is God calling us unto? How has He, as a married couple, actually equipped us to go into the world and to impact the world? That would be investment number 5. Thank you. I was like, investment number 6 is learning how to cook, clean, and take care of yourself. So I went to college.
Oh, you did?
Yes, when I was 18. Well, not everybody goes to college. You don't
That
have
is
to.
that is very true.
You don't have to go to college. And so I had no choice to learn how to cook, clean, and take care of myself. I honestly really do believe that that was so helpful prior to being married, because now that we're married, I'm able to serve my husband in that way and not have to think twice about it. It's just a natural part of how I was already living life. I know that the world has a lot of views or opinions when it comes to gender roles. We believe that God has equipped us as female and male very uniquely. And so in that, he's created our roles to be very uniquely and to complement one another well. To me, I actually really enjoy, and I find it natural for me to cook, for me to clean, to make our house pretty, to organize our room, all of these things. And not to say that Troy can't do any of those things. He can. He lived by himself.
I lived by myself, I think, for the last three or 4 years, but even in college as well, you learn to take care of yourself. And I think that's actually a message out there for the men. Learn to take care of yourself before you get married, because it is not your wife's responsibility to be your mother.
Exactly. And Troy, I'm not just called to serve Troy. Troy is called to serve me. But the way that we carry that out can look differently. But it's not to say that Troy can't do any of those things. But as a man, he actually carries so many other responsibilities that I personally do not want to have on my shoulders, such as...
I would say, like, right now, specifically, just this is for us, is work, for example. So right now I have 3 jobs, and I love all my jobs. And that's with Alex having a full-time job as well. I'm a baseball instructor at one of the best training centers in America. I'm also a college advisor, and I also run a travel baseball team. As a man, this is something that I've been called to do. Like, are both men and women supposed to, like, be able to provide? Yes. But I feel it as my duty in our marriage that I'm going to be the one that's going to always be able to provide and make sure that there's food on the table, that the lights are on, and that my wife is not going to bed every single night saying, like, what are you actually doing, like, with your life? Like, how are you working? Like, and all these things. The other thing that I feel I'm called to do in our marriage is to clean the dishes, because Alex cooks 99.9% of the time, and I wouldn't...
Well, he cleans the dinner dishes.
Yes. And I clean some other things. I clean my bathroom. But since Alex does cook, I don't see it as fair as if I was like, hey, you need to go wash the dishes as well. That wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be loving of me. And so this is me serving my wife, and in other areas too that I want to definitely improve in, but it's just building things around the house. We know I haven't been blessed with being able to build things, but I feel it as my responsibility. If Alex wants a table, if she wants a bed frame, whatever it is that she wants to be built, like, I feel it as my job to build that for her.
Just out of love for one another and serving one another, what can the other take on? Troy also goes to the laundromat for me. I find that to be, like, it's just a lot to carry. I find it to be scary. I don't want any guys to hit on me, like, any of these things. So Troy takes care of that. Anyways, all to say, learn to cook, clean, and take care of yourself prior to marriage, so that when you unite your life to another person, you're actually able to serve the other well. Okay, so last but not least, savings and paying off debt. Having just a healthy view and practice when it comes to finances. I personally think I did pretty good in terms of finances, how I handled finances prior to getting married. I could have done better. I came in with some student loan debt and some credit card debt. Honestly, half of that credit card debt was from the wedding. So if you go into marriage with no debt, even better. I don't think that that's necessary, but even better. Then you don't have to put money towards that, and you can kind of just go straight into savings and planning for the future and using your money. So prior to getting married, I had a practice of paying off debt and had a practice of savings. And so if I could say anything in terms of savings, and what my advice is prior to marriage, is to have an emergency fund. So at least $1,000 for yourself as a person. And then personally, I've always had a savings account as well for travel. So anytime I wanted to travel, book a flight, go on a road trip, whatever, it wasn't coming out of my
Checkings account.
Yes, it wasn't coming out of my checkings account, and I knew that at the end of the day, I was going to be able to pay off all of my bills. Personally, our savings account right now looks like an emergency fund, so it's $2,000 because we're 2 people.
We have a furniture fund. We also have a supplemental fund just in case we want to do some life things together, just in case somebody wants to quit their job one day. You never know.
Yes. So supplemental fund. So that's anywhere between 3 to 6 months of cost of living. And then we have this might sound dumb, but it's a hair and makeup fund. The reason for that is because I get balayage. So if you're a girl out there, I know there's so many girls out there that it's like trendy now to get your eyelashes done, nails and your toes done, get your hair done, whatever. And obviously not everybody does that, but for some reason, I feel like there's so many girls that with social media, they think that it should be a part of their life or like a natural way of life, whereas that's a luxury. And so anyways, I have that fund set aside so that when I do get my hair done, which costs hundreds of dollars, again, I'm not affecting our checking account.
Yeah, and then the last thing that I started doing in March, I saw it, I think it was like on Threads or Twitter, somewhere like that, but it's honestly just, it's gonna sound so random, but throwing $56 every single week into a savings account. And by the time you do that, by the end of the year, I think it gets you somewhere around like $3,000. Just $56 a week could actually save $3,000 at the end of the year. And so that's one of the other just practical ways that to save money. Also, just be open with each other about your financial situations as well. And so when that comes to any debt that you are carrying, what is your plan? Once you are married, are you guys gonna have the same bank account? Or are you gonna have separate bank accounts? Like, I know there are people out there that do that.
We do not recommend.
Yeah, we do not recommend that. But there are people where it's like, oh, like we'll have a joint account, but then like you get like your little fun spending money account, like whatever it is, and like how you guys want to do your financial situation. Make sure you talk about it before getting married.
You don't want any surprises, right? And so you're one household, and so you should come at life with purpose and with intentionality. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, but every single thing that you do in life, well, most things that you do in life cost money. And so whether you like it or not, you do have to be or should strive to be financially smart. There are so many people in the church that know nothing about finances and that don't even want to talk about it because they think money is evil. That is not true. The love of money is evil. The Bible talks so much about finances. Proverbs, like half of Proverbs is about finances. So read the Bible. That is our top investment number 7. I guess I don't know if I would call it top investment number 7. Our investment number 7. And then really quickly, once you do get married or before marriage, 2 things that we have is a SoFi banking account that we would recommend because it's a high yield savings account.
Yep. So you get a 4.6 on investment, carrying interest after every month, and so 4.6% is really, really high.
And then the other thing is the Acorn app. I don't know if it's Acorn or Acorns. Look it up on your app store. I would highly recommend. So basically what that is you can say how much money you want to go into this app every single month or every single week, however you want to set it up. Also, you could do roundups. So every time you spend money, it'll round up to the highest dollar or like the next dollar amount or whatever. And it'll basically put it into this account as well. So it's basically like an investment / savings account. You don't have to look at it or touch it for like years if you want to. And just think of that as a good investment, whether you're single or whether you're married. So we both have that account. That is all we have for you. There are so many more investments that we could have talked about, but hopefully you enjoyed these. If you are married and you have an investment that you made prior to marriage that we didn't mention, comment that down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you next video. Bye.
You are my sun.